honestly, we think, yeah, we're pretty convinced it's going to happen. So,
The Doan name is officially associated with the efforts to bring the NHL back to Arizona, and we are thrilled to welcome Andrea Doan to the show. Andrea, thank you so much for joining us.
hi guys, thanks so much for having me.
Of course. Well, we just saw you last week at the news conference where you talked about how excited that your family was about this opportunity. But we want to know what's been the reaction from the greater hockey community, either former Coyotes employees or even just the greater NHL community.
Yeah, well, it's been great. We've heard from a lot of people from both, from our friends from the NHL that we either played with or even that played in the NHL and retired in Phoenix. They've reached out, like the guys and their wives also. And not just like, oh, hey, cool, I saw you guys are doing this. But honestly, they're all like, let us know what we can do. Like, how can we help? We want to also be involved. Same with, the ice den and hockey coaches there and hockey moms. No, there's been like positive feedback from everyone, and that's just another indication of the support system that we have that makes us so confident moving forward with this.
You don't want to drop any names of people that have contacted you out yet?
Oh, okay. Let's see. Well, it'd be like blast from the past too. Like Amy Carney. Do you remember when Keith Carney
Oh
played?
yeah.
And yeah, like they've stayed here the whole time. And uh, Chuck and Chrissy Kobasu. He played well, not for the Coyotes, but throughout their career, him and Shane were buddies. And on the Yells, they retired here. Of course, the Whitneys, our neighbors, the Pyatt's. The Nashes. Like there's a pretty big group of us, and then Mike DeAngelis from the Ice Den, Mark Ciaccio, he was another one of their skating coaches and involved with us over the years. And then Fritchie was actually there at the interview, and oh gosh, like honestly, just other hockey moms and uh, the Nyes, Matthew Nyes, well, you guys know, of course, he plays here for Toronto. So his mom and I keep in touch quite a bit. And just honestly, like everyone has been so gracious and just willing to help out and honestly so excited about it.
Hmm. We know that your role is still being shaped, but when you're sitting at a conference table with politicians or business leaders who will have a major hand in trying to bring the NHL back to Arizona, what will your message be to them, Andrea?
Well, I think honestly, the business leaders, they understand the importance of bringing the NHL back to Arizona and the importance of having the professional sports here in the valley in large cities, all four sports. So many of them, and this is more coming from Tom and his understanding of it, but they have acknowledged that like losing the NHL was a huge economic and honestly a little bit of a reputational blow to the state and to the city. So in order to be successful in bringing the Coyotes back, yes, there needs to be the unified front with the businesses, with the other sports communities, and the public, with everybody advocating for this effort. So I think we're moving on. We're learning from the past, and I think also just creating that collaboration with the other sports leaders, and then of course like our grassroots supporters and everybody on the committee and activating our networks of colleagues to get this done right. So yeah, it's of course bringing the NHL back, but we want this franchise to be, solid and sustainable in the community and focused on doing things the right way and bringing a successful and winning team to Arizona.
Can you talk a little bit about your relationship with Gary Bettman and Bill Daly? We've heard some stories about how your husband Shane helped end the NHL lockout, but what have been your personal dealings with, the commissioner and the deputy commissioner, and how can that help with this venture?
Yeah, honestly, they've been great to us, and they see how hockey can work in Arizona. They understand hockey and the markets and just the non-traditional markets and how well they've done in those. And Phoenix has always been one of the top as in their vision for just the NHL, let alone, the Coyotes. So And yeah, the lockout. Shane's such a good little mediator. He does a good job with that kind of stuff. But anyways, yeah, you know what? They've been always open with us, candid. We've had a cordial relationship, and it's based on our love of the NHL, of hockey, of doing what it takes to make it work in Phoenix. And yeah, they 100% desire, of course, to grow the NHL, to have it flourish, but especially in Arizona.
Hmm. By the way, that story was confirmed by Gary Bettman himself that Shane helped end the lockout. So I didn't have to wonder if it was true or if it was urban myth. We know that the Doan family members are all hockey fans. I've seen you at so many games. I remember the whole crew moving through so many different games. Remember Josh running through the locker room. I hate to say it when he was knee high. I can't believe I'm the guy saying it. Shane said he can't remember a home game where all the kids were not present with you, at least when they were all living here. But your impact goes so much beyond spectator role. So I want to ask you a few pieces here. I want to first get a sense of what your role was in Josh's youth hockey career, which Shane describes as way more than a hockey mom. Obviously, he wasn't around a lot because he had to be on the road or at practice. So what all did that entail for you?
Well, yes, I mean, he's funny. Like, I would not say that my role was anything more than just a regular hockey mom. I think that, yeah, with their schedule and the way that it would work and fall is they can't change anything. So if there's games or there's tournaments and youth hockey in Phoenix, if they were at a higher level, because of course there's not too many teams close by to drive to, you're having to travel. So he'd be off to who knows where, Columbus, and I'd have the four kids and have to figure out how I'm, going to juggle everyone for that weekend. There's not really a tag team effort at that point. So yeah, and we were involved in the sense of understanding that for the hockey community to grow and youth hockey to grow, it was important for the boys to stay as long as they could in Phoenix and Arizona, because there's great youth hockey. Honestly, the competition was unbelievable, and some of the boys, if they were really wanting to step it up to this higher level, they'd be getting phone calls from Detroit or back east. And so we were really trying to communicate like, hey, we've got a solid basis here and there's great coaching. And if these boys can all stick together, they can, really be successful in their own right and sort of make an impact. And so that, I would say, was something that, we would work hard to create that for the boys when they were especially younger. Uh, and I think Shane, of course, is a little more old school with the thinking where he's like, if they're good enough, they're good enough. Like, it'll all work out. I know that in today's, it's a little different with youth sports and, college and all that kind of stuff. And we understand that side of it. But honestly, we sort of just took that approach. If, first of all, you can't force anything on your child. Like, they're either wanting to do this or they're not. Like, they kind of have to lead the way with that. And so we just tried to create a community where we could offer the best that we could for the boys right in their hometown and stay together as long as possible. And honestly, like Josh and Matthew, Austin Matthews, of course, and there's been a lot of young players that have done great with their careers in college.
Hmm. All right, sticking with the youth hockey thing for a minute, and I wanted to ask you about, and I know I asked you this briefly on the interview that we did by phone previously, but what on earth possessed you to bring in some billets to this already large family where, as you said, it wasn't exactly a tag team effort? You're running who knows how many places, and then you bring in a couple extra bodies so that you can manage that as well.
I know. I think Josh and Shane bullied me on that one. I didn't know it was coming, and I just was like, "What? Okay." But honestly, just one of those things where it ended up working out, and I think it was, so they were a freshman in high school, but that's not high school in Canada. You're in grade 8 typically when you go to high school. So the nationals, because I was thinking about how this all came together. The the USA Hockey Nationals was coming to the Ice Den that year.
Oh, wow.
And so it was kind of an exciting year because they were going to be there. Of course, the team, like the Coyotes, the junior Coyotes still had to make that team, but it was sort of an opportunity, of course, with it being a smaller, youth hockey market. You're wanting the teams to be competitive, and there was an opportunity for two boys from Canada to come down and just experience living in the States, which for Canadians is a huge deal, like getting to experience what it's like living in another country. And Shane was still playing at the time, so they kind of got to get a taste of what that lifestyle was like. And yet we added two more. We had six kids living with us that year, and everyone was like sharing bedrooms and it was musical bedrooms, and it was a great experience. Like our kids absolutely loved it. And then for the next 2 years, we had a boy from San Diego, and his in San Diego there was no longer a AAA for that age group, so he was gonna have to maybe quit hockey or commute 2 hours one way, which was just not realistic. And so we had we had said yes, you know what, no problem. And that was Sam Deckett. So, and honestly, all of those boys have done unreal with their careers. Two have pro contracts. Sam is playing D1 at Ohio State, and they were great. They're great kids. We really enjoyed it.
Mm. All right, I want to move from the youth hockey ranks to the pro hockey ranks and your role there. Um, I can remember after losses that intense stare on Shane's face where he's probably running through these 70 different things that he might have done in a game to change the outcome, and constantly saying, I need to be better. I need to be better. It was always on him. Tell us what role you played, whatever you can tell us, by the way, as Shane's psychiatrist when he came home from one of those losses.
It is an interesting lifestyle when your kids or your husband literally play a game for a living, because it's an interesting dynamic. And of course they're so competitive, so it doesn't matter, just losing is never fun, and it weighs on you. So I think you just have to go through it, really. Like there's not really any type of quick fix. We just would talk about it, and or not if he doesn't want to talk about it, and you're moving on fairly quickly with whatever's going on with the kids. I think with the leadership position that he was in, and of course then both of us were doing that together, um, we always had that side of it also.
Mhm.
And then with whatever was going on that year with the ownership, we're just sort of trying to maintain an even playing field, for everyone. Just everything's going to be okay, and we're all just here working together. So yeah, and it still is like that. Gosh, they still just hate to lose now that I'm thinking about it. That not as a player, but in management or whatever it is.
Oh man. Andrea, I want to know from you, obviously, you've been entrenched in this community for almost 30 years since, you and Shane moved here when the team got here. I just want to know from you personally, now that you're taking on this chair role with this committee, and I know a lot of people were really excited about that news, but for you personally, why is it so important to see the NHL back here in Arizona?
Well, I think for me, like just speaking personally, it did feel like a huge loss. So this was something where it was almost like a shock at first, because we personally, me, I don't know the city or the state without hockey being there. It's the reason that we came. I remember, driving there in my early 20s all the way from BC, and oh my gosh, my car then did not have air conditioning. Like that's how much I was not there was a bit of an adjustment period with Canada to Phoenix. But anyway, I think over the years there is a history, and I even think about our good friends, and even say Stan and Shelley Wilson, who came over from Winnipeg, and their kids came over, and they went to school in Arizona, and now their kids are married and have kids. And in fact, one of their daughters married Nate Schoenfeld, who's one of the Coyotes coach's son. I don't know. Yeah, Craig, you remember that. So
Mhm.
anyway, now their kids are playing, like their grandkids are playing at the Ice Den, and they're unbelievable hockey players. And I just think, that's that side where you realize like this was such a huge community to us. Like this was honestly like our life. And I think just for Phoenix, like it's the fifth largest city in the nation, and uh there's just a gap without having the NHL team there. And I think that the culture of hockey brings so much to the city also, and that's something that we just we just want to bring back and have it there again.
Absolutely. Well, we can't thank you enough for your time. I know you've been doing a lot of interviews over the last week or so, but we sincerely appreciate it. I know hockey fans here in the Valley are really excited about this venture and are looking forward to hopefully one day having the NHL back here.
Yeah, same with us. And I honestly, we think, yeah, we're pretty convinced it's going to happen. So